welcome to another episode on Thinkers Unlimited. So Harini, who was my guest on this channel recently, recommended me my next guest. And so without further ado, let me welcome to the show Francis Laleman. Starting his work journey in the mid-70s, Francis was first a teacher of Sanskrit, the classical language of India, and of Buddhism, before he moved to social work, experimenting with non-conventional means of education amongst the destitute and the downtrodden, in urban slums and on the paddy fields with landless farmers. Much of his educational approach was shaped in grassroots communities before he turned to applying his work in L&D environments in companies and organizations from the early 1990s onwards. From India, Francis explored the Middle East and the Gulf, and also Japan, again meeting with and working with all layers of society and continuously putting his educational approaches to the test. With the turn of the century came the Agile movement, which Francis immediately recognized as an unexpected reaffirmation of his educational praxis. Since he has been an active member of Agile practitioner communities all over the world, combining his stance on learning, design, and delivery with takeaways from Toyota, Lean, and Agile frameworks. Today, Francis is first and foremost very unconventional workshop designer, a teacher of teachers, and a facilitator of facilitators. Francis is a husband and a father, a painter and a writer. When he isn't traveling the world doing workshops or contributing to global online conferences on L&D, Agile, Scrum, social work, or education, you are most likely to find him in the lushness of an English garden or perhaps in a Japanese monastery. Thanks a lot for accepting my invite, Francis, and look forward to an enriching discussion today.
Thank you for having me, Prashant. It's a great honor for me. Thank you.
So let's get this conversation started. You are an Indophile. So even though I understand it should take you a long time, but if you try it hard enough, how would you share in brief with us what India means to you?
This is indeed a very complex question. Yeah, because India has been meaning quite different things for me over the course of my life. You know, very often I would say that my affair with India is like a love affair, but a real love affair. You know, with Bharat Mata, with all its problems and all its little sensitivities and all its disappointments but then again its flare-ups. It's a bit like that, you know. But originally, let's say that what I found in India was the sense of the fact that the world is just one village. The concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Yeah. Because when I started reading Sanskrit, to my surprise, the Sanskrit language was not at all as difficult as I would have expected it to be. There is just so much in common with the classical languages of Europe. Even with the modern languages of Europe. Even now, when I teach Sanskrit, I took up teaching again just recently with the lockdown, and even now, you know, when I work with people, I can refer them the meaning of Sanskrit roots by comparing them to words in European languages very often. And doing it in that way, people see a continuity. Yeah. And so India for me is the personalization of this cultural continuous field. And then further to this, it's continuity, but it's also like a gem of diversity. So when I got to know my lover better by going to India and traveling in India and studying in India In the first few years, I had this stubborn mind that I only wanted to travel on foot. All I did was pedal yatra. You know, I never took any means of transport in the first 2 years, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to feel and breathe the country, and I wanted to meet people, and I wanted to travel slowly. And so I had come with this mind of continuity, but when discovering the terrain like this, let's say, to stay in my metaphor, when discovering the body of India that I was slowly unveiling, yeah, I saw how diverse India was as well. Yeah. And I came to admire this power of maintaining a certain. There is a certain Indianness that keeps India together, yeah? Notwithstanding this enormous diversity of the people. And of course, this diversity very often seen through the eyes of a non-Indian like me would be seen through with biases and stereotypes. You know, it's so easy to say, oh, you see elements of caste system, and you see elements of inequality, and you could easily see through negative eyes all the time. Yeah. What I did was the opposite. I tried to understand, and very often I in my attempt to try to understand, I also came to forgive the little errors and the little nuisances and the little things that I thought were annoying to me. So first it's continuity, and then it was diversity, and then there is something weird, but this has I think more to do with the fact that one is a foreigner in an adopted country, yeah, rather than India in specific or in particular, is the fact that when I was in India, when I traveled around in India and then I lived in India, I was showered every day by an extraordinary sense of freedom. And I do realize that the freedom that I experienced, yeah, is not the freedom that the Indian people experience. My freedom was a function of ignorance. Yeah. And then I sort of discovered this, and I since then, all this is 50 years ago, since then, most people who have led expat lives, you know, like I have, and that I speak to, recognize this a little bit. You know, you are in an adopted country, and the higher your ignorance, the freer you are. You don't have to follow any unwritten rules. You just don't know them, you know? And you are easily forgiven also to not know them. You know? Just to give you an example, I could, I lived in Delhi the first few years, and sometimes I just felt like having a luxurious day, and I could fairly undressed up. I could just walk into Imperial Hotel, and everybody would say, "Hello, welcome, Sahib," and I just went straight to the locker room, and I could spend time in the swimming pool all afternoon. Whereas if an Indian would have entered the hotel dressed like me, he would have been shoved away, you know. So I enjoyed a certain freedom. Yeah. So I started to equate India with this freedom as well. So continuity, diversity, and freedom. Yeah. And then only later came real love. Huh? It's like a real love affair. Huh? It's when you when you get to know, and your ignorance becomes less, Yeah. Then you have a choice, huh? In any human relationship also, you have the choice to either start liking your partner and loving your partner, or getting annoyed by her. And both options are there, and both cases happen in life, you know. But I really chose to after some time I fell in love with India, literally, with all her errors and her her annoying little things, and all the mistakes that I saw she makes. But just like I I am married, you know. It's in a human relationship, it's the same, you know. If you cannot forgive and see through the little mistakes that your partner makes, then simply there is no love. So you just sort of generate love, you know. And so I really came to fall in love with the Indian, with everything Indian, you know. Like now, I haven't been in India or on Indian soil since the beginning of this Corona thing, and there are days that I really physically miss the the humidity of the air, you know, the fragrance, the noise of a faraway water pump pumping water into some kind of into a mustard field, or into or a lentil field, and the screeching of parrots flying over before sunset. They're little sensorial experiences that I miss the most when I'm not physically united with my beloved, you know. I'm sorry to be speaking in such metaphors, but that's what it is.
This is a charming story. Somebody should write a book about, you know, your affair with India.
Yeah.
So you have seen how corporates approach learning and development. If you had it to, you know, to change it, what would you change and why?
Oh yeah. Well. First of all, you should know that I came into education as a sidekick. I studied Sanskrit. I started reading Sanskrit, you know. So I was formed as an academic, you know, rather than as an educationalist. And taking the educational way was just a sidekick for me. It was a little bit of a flight from the dryness and not always very relevant world of academics in my field. I mean, so I learned education. I learned about education in a very immersive way. I just started being involved with education. Yeah? First in India, in social projects and social work, and it was very immersive. So I was completely unlimited, and I underscore that word, unlimited, by theory, by educational theory. I just did, you know? Like most of us do as parents. Are you a parent, Prashant?
Yes, I am. I have a
You are
daughter
a parent. So
underneath
then,
15
yeah,
this year.
I dare you, you know, you can ask like 100 people around you who are a parent, and you ask them, how many of you have ever studied a book on education?
Not many.
Not many. Yeah. So all of us, we are going as along as we go, you know, and we it's trial and error, and we adjust, and we move along this way of parenting actually in a very agile way. Yeah. And And then at a certain point in life, this is also, by the way, just if we rewind a little bit, we go along our educational project with our children in an agile way, and then this is also how our children learn. Our children learn, they are immersed in life. They learn in an explorative way. They don't have goals. Maybe you did, Prashant, when your children were small, but I did not set goals for my children. I did not say, today thou shalt learn how to build a tower with wooden blocks. I never said this. I was, goal setting is completely senseless in the context of learning. What we try to do as parents is we try to sharpen the curiosity of our children, yeah, and we are there when something goes wrong. We are the basket in which they can fall back if they have a disappointment, and we are the blanket that we can wrap around them when they feel cold or neglected. And we give them a little advice, you know, and we give them a little, we give them examples also. Okay, but mainly our children explore by themselves, and when we let people explore, their curiosity is sharpened and they become learning human beings. And then we grow up, and then we send our children to school. And all of a sudden, all this exploration is forbidden. And we force our children to sit on that place. Yeah? In the, you know, that in the countryside schools, you know, it's on the ground, you know, it's on a little sheet of plastic. You have to sit there, sit. And then chup. Chup. Don't chup. Yeah. Because the master is speaking. And in just a matter of few school days, we kill the curiosity of the child in an attempt to turn this into something which is very, it has to do with our own vanity, you know. Actually, what we want, what most school teachers want, is they want the children to look up at them as the master who knows. And when there is a question, instead of exploring, they want the children to ask for permission and then ask the question, because I know. And the more we go in life, we proceed in life, the more we reshape the learning adventure of a child in that way. And then when you come into the professional world, in the corporate world, yeah, we even go further, because we separate aspects of life into different segments. We have life and we have work. That's the first thing. You know? Everybody in the world is now discussing the so-called, you have to keep balance between life and work. I cannot see why there should be a balance between two things that should be the same. But it's an artificial cut, you know. You have life. I wonder what life is if it isn't work, you know. This reminds me of a quote that is attributed to Rabindranath Tagore, Gurudev. Maybe you are familiar with this. Huh? It's something like, I slept and I dreamed that life was joy, yeah? And then I woke up and I discovered that life was work or service, yeah? And then I became older and I discovered that service was joy. Yeah, I love that quote. I couldn't help myself throwing it in there. Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's an artificial split up. You know, we just create artificial things. And then the most artificial is that we design or we dedicate time boxes or days to learning. So I tell you, Prashant, you can live at home, and when you come to the office, you have to work, and then one day in the month, maybe I will give you 3 hours to learn. Now, what idiocy is this? You know, you cannot isolate learning into a time box. Learning and living and working, it should all be one flow. It should be one big stream, you know, with beautiful, engaged, curious, keen to learn colleagues. We should be one community. Think of the wonders we could do if this would be the case. But we say, no, Prashant, you should not learn on the job. No, you have to learn in the meeting room. Because one professor or trainer will come and explain it to you. We want to control. Also, this is not an attempt to make people admire the teacher. No longer. It is now an attempt to make people learn only this thing that you or that the management or that I will personify the corporate, want you to know. So I am the corporate, I want you to know certain things, and in order to control this, I limit your learning space into certain time slots, and that's where thou shalt learn what I will tell you. Yeah. So it sounds like dystopia to me, and I have been contributing to this business because that again, it's learning has become a business.
True.
When you want to train your people in a certain skill, you invite some trainer who works for a training office or training delivery, and it's business, you know. And personally, I cannot see how a teacher can be a businessman. I cannot see this. If I'm a teacher, Prashant, I want you to anything that we discover in class together, I want you to take that away and use it and copy it and work further on it. But if I am a businessman and I show you something, then I have patented it with registered trademark, you know, and then you cannot use it because I'm selling it to you. And each time you use it, you will have to pay the price. You know? But you cannot sell curiosity. You should an educator should sharpen it. So you can see that in the corporate world, actually, the learning is just not done. The word learning is not what happens there. It is the corporate world is partnering with a training business. Yeah? And listen to the world. It's training. What do we train? You know, what is a trainer? A trainer is someone who trains animals to be responsive to. Even the word learning is rarely there. Now this starts to change, and now in the L&D business, people start thinking, okay, we should get rid of the word training, and we come up with the word learning. Like now it's learning and development. Yeah, 10 years ago it was training and development. Now it's learning and development. But learning, learning doesn't fit in this box. This is not how people learn. This is how training hours are being delivered. So there's a lot to do. there's a lot to do, and for me the interesting thing is that as I told you, I have been part of this business for the best part of my life. I have been very active as a corporate trainer, you know? And bit by bit throughout my journey, I have seen that it rarely is worth the effort. That I have seen so many, you know, you come into a classroom or a meeting room, and as a trainer, and then people are sitting there. And I ask people, I got the habit of asking people, did you have to come, or do you want to come, or do you like to come to this event? And then you see people shuffle on their chairs a little bit. They don't dare say, but actually they had to come. And then some people some people would rather not come because they have work to do. Yeah, and this is a sign, you know. This is a sign of this artificial split up between learning and working. You know? I have no time to come to this learning session because I have work to do. Explain this to me, Prashant. This is so. But what I was saying is, I have the advantage of in the meantime being able to build on a long career, yeah? and I have had the opportunity to work with clients who were open to really rethinking their learning policy. And I have a client list of organizations that have seen what it means when you turn all this around. Yeah? So things are moving. Yeah? I'm not desperate. I'm not negative. On the contrary, I'm full of hope. And I think now with the newer generations, a lot will become possible that was not possible for the previous generations. Because now the newer generations, with the availability of the digital world, they again experience the kind of learning as grown-ups that I was speaking of earlier when I described the kind of learning for children, like the immersive learning and the learn as you go and like. Let me ask you a question, Prashant. We have been communicating on WhatsApp before, yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, you follow the course on how to use WhatsApp before you started using WhatsApp, and you were shown slides like WhatsApp has 5 functionalities: being, first, second, third. You have seen these slides, yeah? Of course, and then you have read handbooks and manuals. Yeah? Why are you looking at me like this? You didn't? You didn't?
Learned
Of
on the
course
fly.
you didn't. Of course you didn't, Prashant. Nobody did. Nobody did. We just learned these things by immersion. Yeah, we learn this together as a community. You show me a trick, I show you a trick. Yeah, you create a group. I ask you, oh, Prashant, how did you create a group? Yeah, you tell me how you created a group. Nobody has ever felt the need of being taught how to use WhatsApp. Yeah. But we are being taught how to use SAP in a company.
I really hope that parents, educators, and the corporate honchos are listening to what you are saying, because there are many things. There are few things we are doing right, but then I feel there are many things we are not doing right. And I think, as you said, change is very slow, but yes, there is hope, because the new generation of entrepreneurs and people who are starting businesses are looking at things the way they should have looked at years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And I believe that those are the people who right now are the exceptions, hopefully will become the norm in the next 10, 15, 20 years, so that the next generation at least are not getting into this quandary of TND or an LND on what it should be, but actually look at it immersively the way that you have talked about. And I think it has to start from the schools, because if it doesn't start there, it will not happen at the workplace.
Yeah. So in other words, just to put it in one sentence or group of sentences, a corporate, an organization, it should be a community of people living, working, and learning together, with each other, from each other, among each other.
True.
And in order for this learning to happen, the management needs to facilitate spaces in this, not only physical spaces, but also spaces of the mind. You know, we need to facilitate space in which this learning and working and living together can take place. And this is a new view on what an organization should look like. And basically, I'm sorry if this is blunt, but basically you can learn this from going to any kindergarten or pre-nursery and see how this is organized, and you will see your answers.
Wonderful insights. Now, if you were to encapsulate this concept of resourceful exformation for a layman, on which you have actually also written a book, how would you do it?
Yeah, thank you for asking me this. I've used the word exformation, although this is basically not really an existing word. Each time I type it in Google, I find it, but when I type it in Word, I get this red line, and it wants to change the word in information. So the word exformation was first used by a Danish author, and what he referred to, or what he thought it meant, was this kind of information that is on purpose not given. So so it's not information, it's exformation. It's taking out of. X means out, like exit. So it's the information that has been purposefully taken out of something. Just think of, I love that idea, just think of me telling you about a new film or a new book that you need to read or that you need to watch. Suppose I would be telling you, okay, there is 3 characters, and so and so and so, and this is their situation, and this happens, and then this one reacts like this, and then this one reacts like this, and after some time you will say, Francis, please stop telling me more, because I want to read the book. I still want to enjoy the book. You will not spoil it for me. Please stop spoiling it for me. So on purpose, I will withhold the rest of my information. And because I withhold the rest of my information, I enable you to discover this film or this book on your own. So I like this. I like this idea. And then there was this, there is a Japanese design professor, Kinyahara. He teaches design at the University of Kyoto. He's a man, he's my age. I love his work enormously. He has written quite a series of books, and everything he does I like. And he used to give projects to his students, and graduation projects to his students. And one of these projects that he gave was titled exformation. That was the idea, Exformation. And his students had to come up with designed objects, yeah, that sort of follow the same idea, you know, by taking away things that are not, by taking away elements in a product that would tell you too much and that would withhold you from exploring it yourself. And he added to this the concept of affordances. So if you take away elements of a product that would take away your curiosity, yeah, of course there need to be somewhere an entry for you to get into that product. Nevertheless, it cannot be the purpose that you won't buy it, and because it has to have a certain appeal. There needs to be some kind of entrance there, and this entrance is the affordance. And the idea of affordance, Kinyahara explained this by means of a chair. He says, like a chair. Yeah. Put a chair in the jungle, yeah, and imagine some tribal people who have never seen a chair. Yeah. Would this chair be discovered as something that can be sat upon? Yeah. So if yes, then the object has the affordance of sitting.
Interesting.
Yeah. If no, then people just walk by and say, "Oh, an odd constellation of branches," you know, or an odd constellation of pieces of wood, or yeah. But you need somewhere. You need to provide an affordance so that people could discover that it is something to be sat upon. A doorknob also. You can design doorknobs that completely disappear into the wall. But if the doorknob does not have the affordance for people to use, then either it won't be used, or again you will need a manual and 5 slides and yeah. So if there is no affordance, you will need to go back to the old style teaching of. But if all these conditions are there, you can easily see that we are back to how children learn. Children learn exformatively. They learn without having gotten the information up front. Like, I don't know which language you speak at home, Prashant, with your children. Do you speak Hindi or English? Or
Hindi, or shall we say English? It's kind of, you know,
you speak English.
it's mix of Hindi and English.
I am sure that when your children were very young, you did not start by giving them grammar.
True.
No slides on grammar, no grammar book. Yeah. But you spoke with your wife. There was a soundscape in the house. Yeah, and by addressing your children in that language, you provide your children with the affordance to take part in the conversation. And you will not punish your children if they say something wrong. If they pronounce a word wrong in a wrong way, you will maybe smile, yeah, but you will cover that with a cloak of love and forgiveness, yeah, and this cloak will again be an affordance for your child to go on and to feel safe. You know? So this is exformative learning. It is learning before any of the what we think necessary information was given. So let me illustrate this with objects. Huh? You could think that this is you see it's a lot of text here. This is content. Yeah, this is content, and then this, yeah, this is activity. You see the word activity there. Yeah. Yeah. So in most cases, in traditional learning, we start with content. And then after hours and hours and hours of content, we say, and now you can practice. Yeah. Yeah. Now, exformative learning is just the opposite. Huh? We start practice, and then after some time, the children themselves will say, "Hey, there's logic into this. Oh, there is grammatical logic." The children will discover this. We don't have to offer this. The children will make this themselves. So what is exformative learning? It's turning learning topsy-turvy, upside down. Instead of content exercise, it is activity and discovery. That's exformative learning.
Wonderful. I think everybody, including me, I'm sure, are intrigued to probably also read the book that you've written, because I think you have sparked that interest to know more, and I'm sure they'll find a lot there. Thanks for those wonderful insights. One of my favorite things I want to ask you is that, are we educating our children in the best way possible? And what are the elements you would like to throw out of the window immediately, which is happening currently in our education system?
Well, this is an interesting question. It brings us back to what we have discussed already. But let's just say I'm not a disruptor. I don't like the word. I don't like the concept of disruption. So I wouldn't throw away anything. You know, all of us, we are doing our best. Huh? We are doing what we can. It's not our fault. I'm not blaming anyone. You know, but. As you have said in your introduction, I came into contact with the Agile world. Yeah, quite soon, as soon as the Agile Manifesto got published. Even before that, you know, I was triggered by Scrum, because in Scrum I saw a lot of elements of things that I used in education already. Like exploring short iterations, very short and manifold feedback loops, yeah. and then activity, the daily stand-ups, you know, and then taking a pause to review and see what we have learned, yeah. And then taking a pause and look back at our own process in a retrospective, and then going back into iterations. It's very close to the natural way. So I had felt this appeal or this pull by Scrum quite early. And then when the Agile Manifesto came there, of course, this was made for software development, because accidentally the people who wrote it were software developers. But just pulling this out of the software context is not difficult. It's an approach to life as a whole. Yeah. So when you think of education, I would just go over the Agile Manifesto and just say the first line is where it says that we should put more value, or give more value, or give more space to individuals and interactions than to processes and tools. That's the first line of the manifesto. Let's do that in how we educate children as well. Let's interact with our children. Let's consider our children as valuable individuals. I have, for instance, never understood why we speak to children in a childish way. I don't see the need to address children in a childish way. If you respect your child as an individual and you speak normally, your child will learn how to speak much more quickly and much more fluently and much better. Yeah. And pick up more what we consider non-childish concepts in a much easier way. Yeah. Yeah. And then the processes are processes and tools, etc. It's not about. It's not about. This is a learning tool. Cards. This is tools. Yeah, and I can use tools. It's nice to use tools and tomato, car, eek. It's nice, you know, but the focus should be on human interactions. Yeah, on being together. That's the first line of the Agile Manifesto. The second line of the Agile Manifesto is that we should focus more on things that work than on documentation on things that work. In other words, we should focus on the little successes that children have, rather than on and on things that work like as they do, rather than things that you need books for or documentation for in order to learn it. So, for instance, think of I don't know if your children, how old your children are, Prashant, but maybe the day comes that you will learn how to, or you will teach your children how to bicycle. Maybe the day will come. Yeah,
she's already doing that. But yeah, there was a time when she learned it. Yeah,
she's doing well. Of course, then again, Prashant, before she started, you gave her a lecture on transmission systems. Yeah, but this is what with grown-ups we do this, huh? And first transmission system, second lesson neurological system, how the brain interprets the muscles and the skills, and then after that we say now you can practice exercising. But you don't do this, huh? So you just put your child on this bicycle, and it's stuff that works. You know, you don't need a book on it. It works on its own. And then the third line of the Agile Manifesto is also very relevant. It says that we should focus more on collaboration than on negotiation. And this means that we have to let go of our power game. And this is a good lesson for corporates also. We spoke about that the whole training setup in L&D is a method of providing, of keeping control over what is being learned. It's a power game. And the third line, it says collaboration over negotiation. So we should collaborate with our children in creating a learning space, rather than say, if you did it, and if you go that, then you will. This is the negotiating part. And if you have good grades, I'm gonna buy you a mobile phone. This is negotiation, you know. This is not natural learning. In a natural habitat, children do not need rewards for learning. Learning should be the pleasure in itself. And this we can only do by collaborating and by putting ourselves on the same level, and just working together, you know, exploring together. And then the fourth line of the Agile Manifesto is the most important one. It says that we should focus more on responding to change than on following a big plan. We should keep this in mind. All of it. It's so easy to follow a big plan, and we are all guilty of this. Your child is nearly born, and you already have the big plan of Harvard University, and you start saving money, and it's a big plan. And we are creating our children as an image of what we couldn't be.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big plan. Yeah. And we should stop doing this. We should respond. We should be very responsive to the input that we get from our children, and we should help our children to create their own future, and not with long-term plans. Because how can Ask your I don't know what age ask the young boy, what do you want to do when you grow up? He will say, I don't know, airplane pilot or in the military, or typical boys' dreams, or famous cricket player. I don't know. Yeah. But we all know that this is the wish of a boy in a certain context, in a certain phase of his life, and as an answer to a certain question asked by a person who is in a certain relationship with that boy. Maybe the boy will just say what you want to hear. I don't know. Yeah. So we should be very responsive to who our children are as individuals, and this closes the circle. We are back to the individuals and the interactions. Being responsive to change means accepting the fact that our children change because they learn. Learning is changing, and we also change. And this is also what we as human beings, we live with our partners in our marriages. My partner changes, I change. It's not always easy, and we have to keep up. And we have to make sure that our love is strong enough to embrace the changes in each other. And this we have to do with our children also.
Wonderful lessons, I should say, from a life well lived and one to remember for ages, hopefully. More power to you and your pursuits. And to the audience, keep showering your love and affection in the form of likes, shares, comments, and subscription to the channel. It means the world to me. And until we meet again, stay inspired, stay safe. And thanks a ton, Francis, for doing this. It has been a wonderful discussion. And I should say, namaste.
Namaste. It was a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.